The greatest asset that we have, that everyone on this planet has, is time. How we use it, how we manage it, it has the most effect on every aspect of our life. Time. Forgive yourself for learning what time will teach. I say that because so many times we want to expedite a process. We don't want to go the journey. We kind of want it now. We want the total package now. We feel like if we could order something on Amazon or eBay or any online marketplace, we should be able to achieve whatever it is that we're ordering right then and there. Time is your greatest asset. Time will show those wounds. Times will show them scars. It's like going to the gym. You have to put in the time to see the results. Even if you don't go to the gym and you change your diet, you start eating better. You start cutting things out of your diet. It will take time for those items that you cut out of your diet to reflect. When you get your blood work done or when you're just going for a regular routine checkup, your blood pressure, there's certain things you got to kind of cut out of your diet. At the same time, when you cut these things out of your diet, you have to realize it's going to take a little time before it reflects. But we live in a right now society. Everything is wanted right now. Everybody want that house right now. Everybody want that car right now. And that's not really the way things work. It really do take time. And the more you realize it, the better off you'll be. So with that being said, my suggestion to you, my listeners, people that's checking me out, think about how much time impacts your life. Most people, they work a job or they work for a company. I said that backwards. Most people work a job or they work for their own company. They have their own business. You're still going to have to dedicate time. What those of us don't realize, for the people that own their own businesses, they actually put in more hours than people who punch a clock. All of it requires time. All of it requires some sort of sacrifice, some sort of trade off. You're working for money in return. But you have to dedicate time to a project, whatever your business is, or dedicate time to whatever your work is. That's how life goes. One hand feed the other. So when it comes to just time, when you think about it, you want to be in a position where you're maximizing your time. You're trying to trade or not trade your time for equity. You want to be able to maximize it. The reason I say maximize it, because so many times people will work, work, work. And they're working to pay this company, working to pay that company. They're paying a lot of bills just from working. And they may think that, hey, this is the way life is supposed to be. When you look up, when you get your paycheck, right now, everybody that you paying, and subtract that amount from your paycheck. And then you'll see that, damn, I'm out here working. I'm working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week just to pay somebody else. You don't want to be in that rat race because it's like a hamster wheel. You'll never jump off. You want to do things to get you away from that, whether that's making investments, whether that's starting a side business that eventually grows until where it could be a full-time thing. You're still going to have to utilize a lot of time to get to that point. But when you get to that point, you'll be in a better position. So sometimes I think as a society, we just look at what we can do right now, how we can get what it is we want to achieve, and how we can get it as fast as possible. I use my life for an example. I'm blessed. Things that happen, I didn't expect them to happen in the manner that they happen. I remember being a high school graduate. I'm going to college at night. I'm taking welding courses. I did that for, I want to say 3 or 4 semesters. Became a certified welder. Worked the job. At the time, I was working as a produce assistant produce manager in a grocery store. That grocery chain is no longer in business. They're out of business now. But I was working during the day as a produce manager, going to college at night to take welding, structural welding. Got all my certificates for structural welding and pipe welding. I'm thinking I want to be a welder. I'm hearing that, welders are making really good money. I want to be in the money too. I'm a 19-year-old kid, no clear direction, no clear path. So I worked the job for 4 days as a welder. And I said to myself, I don't have a kid. I don't have a wife. Hell, I ain't had a girlfriend at that time. I'm still living at home with my parents. They've done pretty well for themselves, but not, I'm not a rich kid by any means. But we live good. This ain't gonna work. This ain't for me. And I remember, praying and talking with God and saying, just, give me an opportunity. And a job that I did apply for 8 months prior, they sent me a letter in the mail. Now it's email. Just to give you a timestamp. Back then, when you would apply for a job, they would send you a letter with a phone number for you to call and schedule your interview. Now it's, done all through email. So anyway, I remember I was washing my truck. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but it wasn't a weekend. And I saw the mailman. I walked to get the mail. There was one letter in the box, and it was the letter from that company that I applied for. The name of that company was Me West Vaco. They've changed names since and actually shuttered operations in the city I'm from. But anyway, I saw that letter, I read it, I was like, this is it. So I called the number, scheduled an interview. I go do the interview. And now I'm working at a paper mill. I'm 20 years old. Most of the guys I'm working with are in their mid-30s, 40s, and older. But I'm at this paper mill, and I'm learning different things from different people. I've never been in this kind of environment, but I know this is a good job. I know I would make good money. I had union benefits because it was a union company. 20 years old, and I'm making $1,000 a week. I've never made that kind of money before. So for those that, can understand where I'm going at with this, when you make that kind of money as a 20-year-old, you're bound to mess up some of that money. And I did, rightfully so. I'm young, I'm still learning. I remember I had 4 vehicles at one time. Only one payment, but I had 4 vehicles. And I remember my mom saying to me, with the amount of vehicles you have, you need to find a place to live. Not from a grudgeful place, but from a place of just being responsible. If you're going to do this, then you should be able to do that. Worked there. I actually worked that job for 12 years. Hell, I got married while I was there. I had my first kid while I was there. I was doing my thing. But it took time. I mean, I started there in 2006. I bought a house in 2015 or 16. And I could have actually bought a house sooner had I been more mature. Because I was making the money. I had short credit. Short credit meaning you have credit, but you don't have a long credit history, so they can't really say, hey, we're willing to go this route with you because you've proven yourself. But I had short credit. Bought a house 2015, either 2015 or 2016. Not too long after I got married, I bought that house. And from there, things just started to blossom. Now, all of this takes time. Time. Now, depending on what kind of investments you make in your time journey, it'll show you what kind of equity you can get, right? So I bought that house in 2015. I sold it in I want to say 2020 or 2021. That house cost me 190 when I bought it. I sold it for 270. Time, in a lot of cases, if you're patient, will equate to equity. It will equate to money in some form or fashion, right? So fast forward to today, one of my partners, he texts me, say, hey man, I think your house on the market, your old house. That was the first house I bought. I'm in my third now, but that was the first that I bought. So I went on Zillow, I looked it up and I said, damn, that house going for a pretty penny. I sold it in 2015 or 2016, one of those years, and here it is 2026. 10 years later, the guy I sold it to is selling it. He paid me 270 and it's on the market for 384. And I said to myself, damn, imagine if I had still either been living there or kept it as a rental, to go from the 190 to, and I only owed 160 on it when I sold it, but the 190 to 384, that's life-changing money. That's that generational wealth that people talk about. And most people don't grasp the concept because they don't want to play that long game. And that's where the money is. Who got the most patience? Who's willing to go the distance and play the long game? That is the long game. Just imagine having something for 10 plus years and the equity that builds in it, or the value that builds in it, you sell it at a much later date than when you purchase. Now you're looking up and you have life-changing money to do things that you want to do, or things for your family, things for your children. I mean, really think about it. If you have children, say you bought a house today, you have kids. Your kid, and you buy in a good market. When I say a good market, I mean a area that's is growing, is prosperous, and the values are increasing every year. And you got a kid, they about to go to college. You and your wife, y'all want to downsize. You have this asset that you bought 15 years ago. You can downsize. You can sell this asset, pay for a place in full, and still have money. That's generational wealth. A lot of people don't want to play that long game, or they kind of want, I ain't going to say kind of, everybody wants everything right now. I know I said that earlier, but that's the God honest truth. People want things right now. What can I do right now where I can garner this money, where I don't have to I can put in minimal effort and get maximum profit. That's not how life works. You have to change your mindset in order to grow. And sometimes that growth comes with pain. It's just like a tree. Before that tree come out of the ground, they got to go through that dirt. Now, you may think, okay, it's just dirt. There's some resistance there. There's some resistance there. So when that tree is growing, it's steadily chipping away at that dirt so it can break free and get to that sunlight. Started from a seed. It sprouted. It got roots. That root give it a foundation, give it strength to push. When it breaks through, gets the sunlight. Now you got good water, good moisture content. You got sunlight, getting more oxygen. Now it's going to grow like a weed. That's how life is for us as people. You have to be in good soil, have a good foundation. So when you start to get that oxygen, whatever it is that's feeding you, you can take off. That's what I want for everybody. I have the mindset of abundance. I don't believe that one person can achieve what the next person has, but at the same time, I do understand that everybody's not made for certain things. You're going to have people that they just want to work, do their 40 hours, and go. You're going to have people that want to work beyond their 40 hours and make as much as they can. But in making as much as they can, they're putting their money in the wrong places, depreciating assets. And I learned this young as to why I can speak on it now. Because me making good money and buying stuff I didn't need didn't help me. If I look back now on what I know now, if I knew this when I was 20, I'd have more assets. I would have been, instead of buying vehicles and enjoying life to the fullest, spending $400-$500 on miscellaneous things a week, I would have been putting that money in hard assets. I'm saying all of this for the people that's, listening, and they're in a position where they could do for themselves or do better for themselves. Sometimes you need that nudge. Sometimes it's going to come from a place where you didn't think it'd come from. It's going to come from a person that you didn't think it would come from. But sometimes you just need to hear it, and that's that cue. That's that cue that, hey, I need to do this. I don't need to be doing that. I need to focus on this. Whether it's investing that money, whether it's, any form of investment, just park that money someplace where it's going to grow. Because if you just put it in a bank account, it's not really going to benefit you for the simple fact that it's not going to grow the way that it can. It doesn't have the potential to grow in the ways that it can. Now, if you're a mechanically inclined guy and you say, I'm going to buy this car, I'm going to fix it up, clean it, sell it, all right, that's an investment. You're making your money compound. It doesn't have to necessarily be you parking your money in the stock market or you're heavily invested in a 401k retirement because you're 20 years old. You don't understand that aspect. You just know, hey, I need to put up something for later. And it helps to have people around you that are wise beyond you to school you on that, because even at 20, I was working that job, making $1,000 a week. I was working 6 days a week. I was working a bunch of overtime, bringing home that kind of money. And I remember in July of 2007, I'm still at home with my parents. My mom is a retired accountant. And she said to me, hey, you making good money. I'm happy for you. But you might want to up your retirement to offset your taxes because, you don't want to pay the government back if you don't have to. This was July of 2007. By that time, I had already made $50,000. If I had kept the same energy throughout the year, I would have easily grossed over $100,000 as a 21-year-old young man with no wife, no children, no home. So for the rest of the year, I was putting 20% of my paycheck into my retirement to offset those taxes because I didn't want to pay back. Even if it just was $1,000, I didn't want to pay back anything. I quit working overtime and I put 20% in my retirement. I remember I would get calls from the job. I said, nah, I'm good. I ain't coming in. I can't make it. And one guy was like, hey, man, you was killing it. Now you just stopped. You don't want no money. What's going on? It's like, nah, I don't want no tax trouble. And I have later on had, tax trouble for making too much money. You know, it ain't fun when you do your taxes and your tax accountant looks at you and says, okay, you're going to have to pay back $7,700 this year. Like, what? Or you're going to have to pay back $12,000 this year. You made too much money. I don't like that feeling. I mean, I want to make as much as I can, but I want to keep as much as I can too, And by the time I had got to that stage in the game, I had already understood that, hey, you have to have, a business to offset some of this taxes. So I've started different companies over the years and been able to offset those taxes. All of this took time. We're talking about, this journey started at 20. I'm now approaching my 40th birthday. So we're talking about 20 years for me to really get all of this wisdom, get this knowledge, get the understanding, get the education. That was time. A lot of time. 20 years. Now, if I go to a 20-year-old person right now and give them everything I got and tell them, look, it's going to take you 20 years to get there, that's too long. I want that next year. I want that next month. Patience will pay you more dividends than rushing. A few years ago, I read this book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. Talk about a blue ocean and a Red Sea. The Red Sea is where everyone is at trying to make their money. It's kind of like a gold rush. For those that are familiar with the gold rush or the oil boom or the housing market booms, those are like gold rushes. Everyone's flooding that market. They're going there. They're trying to make whatever they can make. And once the money's been made, everyone leaves and they go to the next spot. This book described that and talked about that because if everyone is here in that Red Sea, they might not be losing. They may be breaking even, and some of them actually making money. But if you stay in that blue ocean space, you're going to do well. If you can perform and be productive in the blue ocean, you don't have to worry about those in the Red Sea. It's kind of like a business, right? Kind of like life. It's like riding an airplane. When you take off from the airport, that plane is elevating. Ride may be bumpy depending on weather conditions, but at some point you're going to reach cruising altitude. And that's where that plane actually covers the most ground. Cruising altitude, maximizing speed. You want to be at cruising altitude. For the simple fact that, depending on what airline you're familiar with, you can pull up how fast you're moving, your elevation. But you at cruising altitude, meaning they're covering ground. When you can fly from New York City to South Carolina in an hour, that's getting it. But you're only getting it at cruising altitude. You can cover a lot of ground. That's where you want to be at. That's where the plane can maximize its performance. That's where you, as an individual, can maximize your performance. When you get to cruising altitude, when you're not out there wanting to purchase this or buy that or throw money at a dead situation, but you find a lane where you can cruise in and do well in and cover a lot of ground. Then you look up You landing the plane, getting that bag. You know, only time can teach you this though. You could have a mentor. They may shorten your learning curve for whatever they're mentoring you in, but you may have some people around you, you know, that's wise and can shorten some things for you as well. But time will teach you the best. Experience is the best teacher. There's some things you just have to go through and then experience it so you can maximize its fullest potential. Once you get to that point, you elevate beyond years. You'll wake up and look at yourself and think, damn, how did I get here? I love it here. Cruising altitude, time, greatest asset. That's the greatest asset, most valuable asset. And don't let nobody tell you otherwise. I'm going to end the same way I started. Forgive yourself for learning what time will teach. Forgive yourself for not learning what time will teach. Very important. I appreciate y'all checking me out. See you on the next one. Thank you.